evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of our program, The Daily Debates, Thursday evening. I'm Yasmin Bakir, and tonight we're going to be talking about the goals and the gains of not just the new administrative capital in specific, but the entire economic cycle here in Egypt. Now, Egypt has gone through a lot of phases, and it's definitely been a very bumpy road, if we may say, when it comes to the economic reform program. And if we go a bit flashback to 2015, when the first economic forum was held in Sharm el-Sheikh, that was definitely a turning point. Not only did we see the care and support by all our brothers and neighbors and the entire world who's trying to not just ensure that Egypt remains in its position, but support Egypt in its economic phase. But we can also say that the Egyptian citizens have also held this burden. We've seen promises that have been kept by the president, a lot of hard work that has been done on all levels by all the institutions. We've seen an outstanding administration and process and planning that is very different from the Egypt that we once knew. And today we stand on firm ground, we stand on concrete ground, because we are seeing the fruits of these projects in its inaugurations. We're seeing that, I mean, who would have known back then that a pandemic was going to put the world on a standstill? But yet, if it wasn't for this reform program and this very strict austerity measures that have been taken, and the support and the challenges that the citizens are facing, I don't think we would be standing where we are now. And we have a very interesting guest, because he has a lot of experiences and a lot of things to share with us today on what exactly happened and what's happening, and make it more easier for citizens to realize why we should be proud of where we have come today. I'm very much delighted to have joining me in the studio our guest, Dr. Ibrahim Mostafa. He's a former advisor of the Minister of Investment, if I pronounced that right. Yeah, thank you so much for coming in, Doctor. We have a lot to talk about, but of course we always start with a report. So please allow us to go to this first report. And the reform program that President Sisi has imposed has succeeded, and that's all thanks to the Egyptian citizens. Let's take a look.
President Fattah Sisi attended breakfast with Egyptian families on the sidelines of the inauguration of a number of housing projects in Badr City, located in northeastern Cairo. During his remarks, he said that the country's economic reform program has only succeeded thanks to all Egyptian citizens. The president said that overpopulation wastes all the state's developmental efforts and leads to price hike and lack of employment opportunities, and causes citizens to not feel any improvement in life conditions. In his speech during the inauguration of a number of housing projects in Badr City on Saturday morning, President Sisi said Egypt will not remove the system of subsidies, but the government will reorganize it. In his speech, the head of state said that subsidies are affected by the increasing number of beneficiaries and the high cost of the commodities, adding that revamping the system of subsidies aims at improving the living conditions of the Egyptians. He added that improving people's living conditions requires controlling the growth of population, with putting into consideration the increase of the income. The president said that the development of the Egyptian countryside will cost from £700 million to £800 million in 3 years, saying the country bears an enormous cost to provide alternative housing units. Regarding the elimination of slums and unsafe areas nationwide, President Sisi said that slums are a result of lack of control over its buildings, saying Egypt has resolved the crisis of slums and this is a divine grace upon the country. The president also stated that the goal of providing housing units is not for competition with the private sector, but rather to achieve balance, saying construction companies should complete 30% of housing units before running ads for them. The president revealed that Egypt will offer the new administrative capital company on the stock exchange. President Sisi witnessed the inauguration of a number of various residential housing projects in different areas nationwide by video conference from within Badr City. Badr City hosts the first housing project for the employees of the new administrative capital. It is located only 10 minutes away from the government district in the administrative capital. The new housing units of Badr City would be handed over to the employees of the ministries that have been selected as a first stage to move to the new administrative capital. The first phase of the housing units in Badr City covers an area of 800 acres.
Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Daily Debate. Once again, I'd like to welcome my guest, Dr. Ibrahim Mostafa, former advisor to the Minister of Investment. Thank you once again, Doctor.
My pleasure.
You know, as we've seen in the report, and as I've said at the introduction, we have come a long way so far. Can we say that today we are living, or we are rebirthing into a new capital?
Yes, yeah, I can say that it's a new era of Egypt. Yeah, it's not started just a few days ago. We should go back again to 2014. I think it's a turning point when President Sisi came to the power. And we had a vision at that time. I was working in the Ministry of Investment, and we had a vision that how to recover the economy, the Egyptian economy, and what are the sectors that we should focus on to boost the economy and have this kind of the achievement that we are seeing today in several sectors. So we saw the mega projects. I mean, many mega cities. I mean, around Egypt. We saw. I mean, how we fought the slums, building new vertical houses and new new buildings on the spots of slums. And we saw also the infrastructure that we have seen being developed during the last 5 years, and how all these features, affected the Egyptian economy. The social and economic life in Egypt, focusing on new initiatives like 100 million Saha, Haya Karima, and other initiatives that have been applied by the Egyptian government. All these things, considered what we call the fruits of the economic reforms that was adopted in 2016, and it was a severe program actually. Because it affected everyone, the society, whether institutions and individuals. And without, this kind of consolidation between the Egyptian citizen and the Egyptian government, nothing could have done. Yeah.
And the fact that you've worked at the Ministry of Investment at a very critical time, which gives us an opportunity today to get to know more exactly about the clarity of how things went. Because people would say, well, it was always planned and it was always in the desks, these projects, so it wasn't born on its date. But the fact that you take responsibility and you have the guts, as they frankly say, to work forward or move forward with it despite the consequences. How that step or that turning point where everybody decided, let's go for it, let's do it. What was it like?
Working in the kitchen is different from being outside the picture. In that time, everybody was knowing that we had a financial crisis in Egypt, and we have a very bad economic situation, and in that time we thought how to make kind of revenues outside of the books. Outside the Egyptian budget. That was really in a bad situation, and then we thought about how to make a kind of mega projects. All these projects haven't come from
nowhere.
It was planned. It was all these projects were put under sectors, the different sectors, and we selected several sectors that will boost the economy, having in mind that what are the tasks should be achieved in 5 years. And all these things were presented in March 2015 in the EDC conference that occurred in Sharm el-Sheikh. It was a big conference, and it was the turning point about how to promote Egypt and how to put Egypt on the investment map of in the world, and telling the investors that Egypt is coming back and we are welcoming you again. We have our strategy to enhance the economy, to rebalance the economy, to enhance the social and economic life of everyone, investors, institutions, and individuals. Putting in mind that in getting all institutions on board and to see what's happening in Egypt, and to give the credit to the Egyptian government and on the achievements happening on the ground. If you heard, during the last 3 years, all in the institutions, I mean, the rating institutions, international institutions, financial institutions, have been saying many good things about the Egyptian economy and the achievements happened. I mean, the good leadership of the president and the good commitment of the government and to achieve the severe reform program. And actually, all these things not coming didn't come from. I mean,
didn't come from nowhere. The Ministry of Investment, in specific, is a very challenging ministry. Yeah. The power of persuasion when it comes to persuading people, it was not easy because we were talking about security reasons, financial. Mind you, back in 2015, the strategy of persuasion was very different. If we were going to put this pros and cons and the comparison between today, the strategy of persuasion, and back then, what was it like?
I always use the approach that where we were, yeah, and where we are now. So to compare that situation to the constitution,
it's like before and after sort of images
before,
that it
I mean, before, I mean, let's say before 2019, back to 2014. This period, starting from 2015, I mean, the bad image about the Egyptian economy, about everything, the social and political stability, all these stuff, I mean, were in the concerns of all investors around the world. And we were talking to investors that, I mean, international institutions, now your situation is very difficult, and you have to enhance the whole picture about your country, whether the economic, social, and political sides. The most important thing in the beginning is to gain the stability of on both political and security side. It was very difficult. I mean, and we achieved very well on this pillar. And after having this, and we had in the parallel side was we were working on the economic side. I mean, it was very important. I mean, to have these parallel, I mean, equation. Yeah, from this side and this side, you have to work on this and this side to make everything happen. I mean, within a very short period. I mean, within 5 years, it was very difficult to achieve all these things in 5 years. In that time, actually, we had many many challenges, and I think we succeeded as Egypt and the team under President Sisi. All the teams came after each government came after the previous one. Every government did well actually on their
at their time.
Yeah, at the time. And every new government didn't stop. I mean, what happened previously. I mean, they continued to make the progress. I mean, relying on what happened before and all this stuff. This is very important. I mean, and this made the achievements that happened currently very booming and very remarkable to everybody to see what's happened on the infrastructure side. I mean, the utilities, I mean, the roads and bridges and tunnels, all this stuff. I mean, the ports that are being developed during the last 3 years, automation, I mean, the digital transformation of the Egyptian economy and on several sectors, what happened during, I mean, the pandemic, all these things, I mean, admired everybody, whether in the local market,
yes, or outside,
and the international.
Yeah, Doctor, as an expert, you've mentioned a couple of valid points, and I will want to indulge into each of them. Let's start by talking about the hierarchy of the administration, or the administrative hierarchy. There's always a taboo here in Egypt that we fail to administrate very well or orchestrate something. And then this sort of taboo broke out during the 5 years. Not only are we seeing a very perfect, well-organized administration, but also the synchronization and the cooperation between the different ministries was also done very well. Many believe that that is because the president is always very personally aware and updated. Involved directly. Others say it's the whole system's been shaken up, and now there is more of a clear administrative process. Some say the youth and pumping new blood has also helped. What you're in the kitchen, so it's our chance to know that.
I was one of the people that came, I mean, very young. I was 27 years old when I joined the Ministry of Investment as an economic expert from the private sector. To just put new bloods in the government sector, working side by side with the old stuff. In that time, we didn't say that we came over your positions, that we came to cooperate with you to enhance the environment and to reform everything in this environment. And this approach, I mean, wasn't easy in the beginning, and we tried to gain the trust of all people, I mean, whether by mid ages or old ages in that time. and we succeed to get them involved with us. First, we try to enhance the business environment inside the work, the work environment, and this gave us a kind of the great push that so that we try to help them to enhance the work environment first. In addition, they touched that we didn't come just to come over their positions. We are here to help.
And to learn as well.
Yes, both of us. We will.
So this gap reduced by
time. We
time.
have the experience. We have, I mean,
the energy,
the spirit and the energy,
and the renovation, of course.
Up to date, I mean, with all what's happening around.
So this gap has been reduced, and it's very clear because it was always known in governmental positions and job tasks here that there's this huge gap, but we don't see that anymore. We see that, in fact, they're very well competing with the private sector equally on all levels.
I want to tell you something. One of the CEOs, I mean, of Procter & Gamble in Latin America told me that it's the first time to see people working in government having the spirit and working 24 hours.
That's why I specifically say broke the taboo.
During the weekend, actually.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's right. Another thing you've also talked about is the fact that this has been a very strict plan for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we do always know that the president's very keen on two things, the time and the cost. Yeah. The least time and the least cost possible. And that was a challenge, for a country that was very devastated.
I mean, being stuck to the time frame, trying to just allocate the money for achieving this, I mean, all what happened and the achievements till now. It was a very big challenge to balance between both of them, the time and the money. And actually we succeeded because we had a very good, I mean, clear vision about the Egyptian Union, where to go. We know we should enhance the social and economic life of the Egyptians. How that would happen in that period, I mean, as we thought that we should have a plan, at least 5 years plan. Then to think about the other 5 years. In that time, we thought about the Egypt 2030 vision, I mean the sustainable development goals, and we had this umbrella and having the 5-year plans. And then having the action plans, having, I mean, every 3 years, putting all things in actions and plans and targets to achieve what we have achieved now. In that time, in 2015, I mean, all new, I mean, Mansoura and
they're all taking place at the same time.
Areas were desert areas. In that time, and even us when we were, I mean, filtering the projects and putting them in a bankable way that could be presented to investors. Really, we thought that, I mean, when we were talking to investors that time, it will take time, 10 to 15 years, I mean, to have these projects done, having this new, I mean, and new admin capital, all these, I mean, new cities, I mean, with these big investments, and it needs a kind of consortium between several companies to achieve what
and time, and long time, and yes.
Money as well. Now, currently, after 5 years, these investors are now thinking about how
did you do it? Exactly. And that's why I said at the beginning, it's something we see on concrete ground. This is not something that's hidden. You go to Alamein every couple of months and you see change. I go through roads every couple of months and I lost track. I mean, even GPS can keep up with the updates.
Many were reluctant to come. Now they are competing to go there, actually.
That's true.
Having the headquarters, I mean, the banks and the embassies. The embassies, I mean, both their lands from now, actually. We thought about these projects, mega projects, that these mega projects should lead the economic development. Why? Because in the international experiences, we call these projects as thematic projects.
Thematic projects. That's true. Yes, I was just going to say that. It's a cycle that keeps rolling back.
This is the concept. And when other people in the time of crisis, the state intervenes very strongly in the market to help both, I mean, help the economy to boost again and to rebalance again, to help the private sector rebalance themselves again to continue the...
That's why I said it's into competition, because there was monopolization taking place, very noticeable in this regard. A third point...
That's what happened, I mean, in the USA in 2008, I mean, the government, I mean, got heavily in the economy and bought many companies and injected a lot of monies in the market.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so it's very important in the beginning that the government realized that this should be heavily involved in the market, helping others to go back again, I mean, to the picture and start to cooperate again. And currently now the government is thinking about releasing, their companies in the stock exchange.
That's a big change.
What we call, the gradual
repercussions of what's happened. Yes. Doctor, a third point to talk about was the fact that this country, because of its idealism and maybe geographically, demographically, the human resources, there's so much fruitness in this that makes Egypt very attractive on all levels. Maybe that's why we have seen projects that are interrelated or interconnected but are not very similar and moving parallel together, going all the way from agriculture to the south, to the north, to the east. And the irony of it is the fact that not just are they interrelated, but again, they're very diverse. Many people were wondering, well, what was the role model that Egypt followed? Is it the Chinese, the Malaysian? Is it an outstanding? Is it bits and pieces? But looking at it today, I don't think, it doesn't look like it belongs to anything.
No model that can fit any country directly. You should tailor it or customize it.
To fit you.
To fit your circumstances. Because you had a very bad position. You can get this model and put it on the ground directly. It might fail if you don't have the right, the same inputs that they had in the beginning. You don't have the same inputs that time. At least you should see the whole picture, so the whole experience and how it worked. Then how you can get this experience to your side, getting the right things that could be fit to your country, and having other things from other experience to put it on the ground. It's a kind of mix. Putting the Egyptian, character inside this picture is very important because now you have your own model.
Yes, of course. It is actually indeed an own model.
If you go to Lebanon and Tunisia, in the past they were saying that Tunisia is the model. Now they are saying that Egypt is the model.
Egypt is the model. That's so true. Yeah. That's so true.
Lebanese now they are saying that we dream to have a situation like Egypt now. They are in the very bad position. The energy is shortage in energy. Shortage in food and everything. People are dying in the streets now. They don't have lights and electricity during only
very sad.
4 hours during the day.
Yes, of course, it's very sad.
Many of the Lebanese came to Egypt during the last 3 years actually to live in Egypt. Other Jordanian people, Jordanian investors started to come to Egypt. They saw the social, the economic life. The life is cheaper than Jordan.
Yes, of course.
They are making money because they are seeing that if I have just only 100 people, 100,000 people, my clients, it's enough.
That's enough. Of course, population in Jordan is very little. I know that.
Lots of profits.
Yes, of course. That's true.
So you have a big market, very good location.
Population.
Yes.
Human resources as well. Very willing to work and work hard.
Diversity in the education.
Yes, of course.
In the last 4 years, you have many universities in Egypt.
Yes, of course.
Whether by international universities.
And the technical schools are being upgraded as well, and training those people.
The President Sisi and the government has been touched all points of the social and economic life.
At the same time, ironically, yes.
To treat the dead body very quickly.
Yes, exactly. Rescue the dead body in ICU. Yes, that's exactly. So I like the way you put that. That's it. That's exactly it. And but again, while we're seeing developments and expansion to new cities, because that's only naturally how Egypt should expand, and it's not like, as they say here, we live in a big house, but actually we're in a small room. So that's different now.
The sector that time was booming very well. And during the last 2 centuries, 90% of the billionaires came from this sector. So it was really, and all the money, it's like if the money are in the banks, the other source of money, the second source that can get, the whole money in the market is the real estate. Because people will have, they'll have their needs to fit their needs, having their houses from one side. Other side, it's a kind of investment.
Yes, that if you keep it, you'll never lose, you'll always gain. Yes, that's true.
If you put your money in it just in the market is stagnated, you will wait until the market is booming again, and you will.
Yes, you'll always make better profit. Yes, that's true.
That's it. Deal with that. It's very, and this sector is really it's dragging 90 sectors behind. It's the most, absorbing sector of the labor market. So it's a very big market, and it needs a huge investment, and it creates more jobs, more business opportunities to the companies. Now, many of the companies working in this sector started to revive again under having these all new cities and these things.
While they're having all new cities, there's always a hashtag of the new capital.
Yeah.
And the new administrative capital is ironically, again, very special.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the new administrative capital, but allows Doctor to go out to this report. But the new administrative capital and the phases that have already been ready, and that's equal to half of the area of Cairo, believe it or not. Is it that the reason why it's also important, or is it really a new capital because it's smart, because it's done properly, because it's well structured? We're going to find out when we come back. Stay tuned.
Prime Minister Mostafa said the area of the first phase of the new administrative capital set to be inaugurated by the president is 40,000 fadans, almost half the area of Cairo. Madbouli, in remarks following a tour in the new capital, said the Egyptian capital's area is about 90,000 fadans, noting that the establishment of the artificial green river in the new capital will be finished by the end of September. Dr. Madbouli has stressed that the project of the new administrative capital will represent the new republic, as declared by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The Premier's remarks came following his tour to follow up on the implementation progress of projects in the new capital. He reiterated that the establishment of the new administrative capital reflects the Egyptian people's ability and paves the way to the announcement of the birth of the new republic according to the political leadership plan. Madbouli was accompanied by Housing Minister Asim Al-Ghazar, head of Armed Forces Engineering Authority Ihab al-Far, and other officials at the new administrative capital. He inspected the progress of works at the Green River Park, also referred to as the Capital Park, which is said to be a river-like series of large-scale urban parks. The Premier noted that there will be a weekly meeting to follow up on the implementation progress of such projects, stressing that no delay will be allowed in carrying out the projects. The new administrative capital is located in the area between the Cairo-Suez and Cairo-Ain Soukhna roads east of the regional ring road. This is roughly 60 kilometers from the cities of Suez and Ain Soukhna. Studies highlighted that the new administrative city aims to achieve a boom in providing services to citizens who need the establishment of lots of new cities to accommodate the overpopulation, with the population rate expected to hit 160 million by the year of 2050. The studies also referred to a study by the World Bank in 2014, which indicated that about £47 billion is wasted annually in Cairo metropolitan areas due to traffic congestion.
Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on the Daily Debate. Still very much delighted to have joining me Dr. Ibrahim Mostafa, former advisor to the Minister of Investment. Now, as we've seen in the report, the new administrative capital, the whole world, just as they're waiting for the inauguration of GEM, they're also waiting for the new... What's special about the new administrative capital?
I mean, this coming from something not real, something is real and very impressive. In a very short time. I mean, such cities are being built in several years, more than 10 years. Having this, achievements in just only 4 or 5 years, it's really a miracle. It's really very impressive in a country that witnessed a very big problem financially after 2011. And having that kind of social and political instability in that time, now moving to a good position, having this kind of accreditation from different international institutions. All countries and institutions are following up Egypt, what's happening in Egypt currently. Other investors start to look again to Egypt. As we see, as we heard during the last 2 days, the net FDI inflows to Egypt has increased by 47%.
Which is huge.
It's in the third quarter of this year compared to the last.
Despite the pandemic, you see.
Yeah.
While the rest of the world is at storm age.
In the time that people said that all the countries will achieve, will get negative growth rates. And that time Egypt, got positive GDP growth rate, more than, it was 3.6. In the time they were expecting just to get only 2%, and you achieved that by 1.5 5 extra the expectation, which is was very unpleasant to many people, to many institutions and many countries around the world. That's why Egypt now in the spot. I mean, being looked from different perspectives. I mean, politically, economically, socially. I mean, even the sustainable development and the grants is coming to Egypt is different now. And all these,
so
the image is different now.
That's definitely
if you look to the image about Egypt in 2014 and now, it's very different. I mean, the Egyptians themselves who were living in Europe now start to think Egypt is start to be equivalent. It's what's happening in Europe.
Very impressive.
That's right.
And they would know better because they live abroad, so
I mean,
and they come to visit, so they see the difference every time.
Every year they are coming to you, they see a change in Egypt. So every year they are coming.
Believe me, even us residents here, every time I go back and forth, I'm discovering new roads, new bridges, new directions.
I'm one of the experts that moving around Upper Egypt sometimes to meet governorates on different sectors, helping them.
Quality of life is different now.
To achieve local economic development. I really saw a very big change in the roads, in the infrastructure, even in the culture. I mean, in the mindset of people started to cooperate with the local authorities. I mean, started to put their money, kind of having this 50% share.
Yes, of course. Because they feel that it's now, they are part of this. Yes, of course.
Yeah, they are seeing that we are part of this process.
Definitely.
I mean, we should cooperate, and as we are, we need this, and you are really achieve and you build and achieve all these things. I mean, we feel that on the ground. We are happy to cooperate, and now currently, I mean, the needs that surveying the needs on the ground are coming from the right people.
The right people.
Yeah, they're coming from the bottom to up, not from up to bottom. Yeah.
Definitely.
Now,
that's the way it should go. That's the way it should have always been. Exactly.
In the middle, that everybody knows. I mean, what you need, what I'm.
And when we are interconnected, we're not.
Yeah,
we're not separated.
We're not isolated. Yes.
We're not isolated. That's
yeah. And this is very important. I mean, to achieve the local economic development. When you touch the needs of the right people on the ground.
And fulfill them.
Yeah.
And fulfill them, that's very important.
The projects, I mean, and to prioritize these projects, not only for one village, to help several villages around and start to select the right location to serve all these villages.
And providing them with service, and that they don't feel that they're isolated, as you've correctly said. The new administrative capital is also known as the New Republic, and we're seeing a shift to the embassies, to the main governmental buildings, and it's all moving there. So this shift, why was it an important decision to shift everything to the new administrative capital?
Building something from scratch is very, I mean, it's not. It's very easier than renovating old
cities.
Yes, because you start to put the infrastructure right from the beginning. You don't need to fix the infrastructure, to dig, then cover, dig, then cover. From the beginning, you started to put the right specs and things from day one, and you put all things in the right position. That will help you when you have this kind of tube that like this you can put all things inside, having covered by that I mean very solid concrete around that helps them from having damage from the rain and all these things is very, very important. You saw what happens in Tagamma and other areas because of the infrastructure.
Yes, I live there and I can see it's a disaster.
I mean, regarding how, I mean, the levels, I mean, high and low and all these things. And now they really, I mean, fixing what happens in
News Cairo.
Yeah, really.
Dr. Ibrahim, as we spoke that earlier, we're no longer isolated and we're very interconnected. Egypt is catching up with the rest of the world, and I think going smart, using artificial intelligence, using telecommunications and technology. And this has also been one of the priority plans for the president. And I think maybe that's what also saved us on all levels during the pandemic, whether it's on the educational sector, the health, or even the businesses. How far are we in this regard today?
Look, just this time we didn't just, we learned how to benefit from other experiences. We are not reinventing the wheel this time. We are just taking what's good in this area, the skyscrapers, and it's what's a model in each, I mean, in every, in the most developed cities around the world, you will see these skyscrapers, Dubai and Hong Kong and wherever you go in the most developed cities. the smart and digital transformation that has been happening around the world, and you start to just, we know to put this in our new
we launched the
capital.
satellite TIBA as well, was a good.
You think that you are rebuilding a new Egypt, you need everything new in this. So if just you have the digital transformation should be considered from the beginning, and you should consider this in the infrastructure mainly from the beginning as well. If you are looking just to have this city
Error
working
or
in
something,
2030 or 2050, from now you are planning to make this, I mean, city working very well operationally.
No more digging to find where the problem is.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yes, everything is planned very well. I mean, even the model that you see that we thought about it, I mean, 10 years ago, and even all these projects, I mean, the LRT, BRT, and monorail, and all these stuff, I mean, we're thinking about put it on the ground to the Egyptian government a few years ago. So it's nothing is wasn't planned.
Yes, of course. E-commercing, banking, and also with the use of technology, making it very easier for investors to be able to handle the cash flow and to manage their businesses. That was very rigid. We've seen transformations in laws and regulations during the past couple of years. Lots of work by the Ministry of Investment that made that true, because that was also one of the challenges when it comes to whether I should invest here or in Morocco, for instance.
Yes.
How far have we?
I mean, it happens everywhere. Why Egypt, not Morocco? Why Morocco, not Egypt? I mean,
that was just a sample, by the way. That was just an example.
This happened. I mean, when I was in the ministry, I received renown that, I mean, in 2007, I think, they were thinking about having a factory to
Yes, and it went to Morocco.
Produce Logan, you know Logan?
Yes.
Yeah, they put Egypt and Morocco, I mean, in comparison, and they choose Morocco in the last. Why? Because they give them more incentives, I mean, to be there in Morocco. So, I mean, all the companies, I mean, all the big companies working like this. If you want to invest in Egypt, should have several locations, then to start to compare between these locations from different sides, political and social stability, the economic stability, the macro picture, what are the incentives are there. I mean, the marginal profit will be achieved, I mean, if you invested here or there. What are the risks? All these things are calculated very well, and then they will try take the decision.
Go back to 2007, if you said the situation was very, very rigid, very different. I know investment is very important because it pours in foreign currency.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of efforts and support has been done by the government to support the local market, supporting the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, to support the young people to start off their projects. And we're seeing very young entrepreneurs today on a very well-established ground. Has that added value?
No, it's very normal to start with these, I mean, stuff, the entrepreneurs and the SME sector, because if you look back to, I mean, the South Korean experience, they started with the SME first, the Japanese as well, India as well. All these countries, I mean, started with the SMEs first. Then the SMEs became very big companies, and they started to look back again to the SMEs to help them to grow up again. Having this kind of clusters, I mean, getting our inputs and intermediate products from these sectors. Thus, we have a kind of takeoff agreements with these SMEs companies. This will help to grow and continue the market.
Definitely.
I mean, giving, I mean, kind of incentives to the big companies to use these products from these companies working in the SME sector. It's very important, and if you, they also, as well as they encourage the
it's a
banks,
natural flow of cycle.
They created, I mean, SME departments inside the banks and specialized banks to lend the SMEs, and created a kind of companies working to guarantee, I mean, lending these SME companies, I mean, when they have a kind of default.
Of course.
Yeah, this insurance will, this insurance will cover, I mean, the default.
Absolutely. Dr. Ibrahim, what are the biggest or largest challenges facing the Egyptian economy or the large projects or mega projects today?
Just what's happening now should be used very well. It's really, we have a very good, solid, I mean, and solid ground. We work, the government working very well, but we should know how to market very well to the Egyptian, to the international market. Yeah, they are following up all the reports about Egypt from the international institutions, from the media, and all this stuff. But these companies need kind of special targeting, like what happened with Siemens when you had a shortage in the electricity. You go and target Siemens, come and you negotiated them, and you had a deal with them with 11 billion. And in a time, Siemens was having a problem financial.
So you mean we need to go and fetch what we need, and not wait for it to come and knock on the doors?
and give these companies a kind of special
Incentives.
Then when you complete this area, you start to select other projects to work on.
But we're still working that on this process.
This should be done during the coming year, using what happened during the last 5 years.
The picture is much more clearer today than it was.
You mentioned something, regarding during the pandemic, what happened to the education and the health and the digital transformation. COVID-19, helped all countries to hurry up the pace of applying the technology in different sectors.
Yes, that's absolutely it.
And we saw in 2020 that all the banks started to, buy, SME companies working in the e-payment and the digital platforms, the e-commerce, all these stuff, because it's coming a kind of, it's boomed very well during this year.
People went out of the comfort zone to try to experience something that they were very fearful of.
If you don't have this kind of parallel system, the e-system and the old system,
would have collapsed. We would have collapsed.
You'll be out of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. Time is out as well. So Dr. Ibrahim Mostafa, former advisor to the Minister of Investment, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure having you on our show today. And that was very fruitful indeed.
I really enjoyed the talk.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That brings us to the end of our episode of the Daily Debate. I'm Yasmin Bekir signing off. Thank you for watching.